Hello. I am missing something. Just a sec. Wait just a sec. I'll be right back. I am obviously a little out of it today. I had friends over yesterday and we played some board games. And to play board games, I have to basically dismantle my entire desk. And that means I have to take my microphone off the desk. And I didn't realize it was not back on the desk until I clicked the go live button. Good afternoon. Good evening. How is everybody? Alicia is here as usual. Colton as well. Oza, Ida, Jerome, Rogue. Oza, what did we play? We started to play Great Western Trail. And it's been so long since I played Great Western Trail, which I used to play often and really enjoy, but it's been a long time since I played it. And the other two who I was with, they had never played it. And we got pretty quickly frustrated because it's a very complicated game that takes a while to learn. And if none of you are really up on how it works, then it doesn't work very well. So we dropped that, and then we got out Sleeping Gods, which is the latest game that I bought. And we played that, and it's much easier and actually really, really cool. Dornall's here. Larry's here. I would encourage lurkers to also at least say hello. I was really surprised last time at the end when I said, are there any lurkers out there? And like 5 or 6 or 7 people said hello for the first time. Jerome has huge jet lag because he was in the Caribbean. Raph is pointing at a pile of CDs, but not Raph. That's better.
Hello.
Hello, Raph.
How are you doing on this wonderful Sunday?
Good. I decided to take a nap, and I didn't expect that I would sleep until 10 minutes before pub time. So I'm a little out of it. It always takes me 15, 20 minutes to recover from a nap.
Yeah. All in trying to recover from the very tackling board game day, I presume.
Yeah. Exactly. Yesterday was really, really cool. I haven't done that. Well, it was a couple of new things. One of my best friends, Jason, had discovered a Markthalle, which I'm sure you know what it is, but for everybody else, it's a market hall, which is there are many of them in Berlin, but we'd never been to this one before, and it's amazing old architecture, like a really cool brick building with really high ceiling and everything. And half of it is stuff to buy, like fish and bread and cheese. And the other half of it is restaurants and bars. And we went in there and got a bunch of different things, like fries from one place and empanadas from another place and beer from another place. And had a very long and leisurely Saturday lunch, which was very nice. And then we came to my place and played board games.
That does sound cool. Like
Yeah.
Germany doesn't necessarily have that many of these like cool market halls. So I'm glad you got one in Berlin.
We have multiples in Berlin.
Mhm.
Berlin is Berlin, and just so huge and whatever, so many
Yeah.
people. We've got Markthalle 9, Markthalle 9, and we've got another one called the Don Juan Center, which
Wow.
is a whole bunch of mostly Asian, like Chinese and Filipino, and I don't know what, shops that sell really cheap things.
Okay.
Like one of them is a whole shop, and it's pretty big, and all it sells are artificial flowers.
Wow.
Yeah, and it has every imaginable kind of artificial flower.
So is
And
it actually making business and making money selling artificial flowers, or is it a place for money laundering?
could be both. Could be either. I don't really know. I mean, it's a lot of these places. The Don Juan Center is very much places that sell really cheap things produced in usually China. And it's always full. It's always like there's always plenty of people there. There are also a whole bunch of different restaurants there. So it's always an experience. What is everybody saying in the chat? Yes, Stornall. I said Sleeping Gods. It's a really good board game. I was really enjoying it. Ida lurked for months before she dared to say hello. And now she's so unscared that she has a hot take every single pub. Colton also lurked for months.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody says it's scary. I don't know. I guess I'm not nearly as shy as some people. I don't find it scary at all, but I totally understand that people are shy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and everyone is reading books, which is shocking. I don't do that.
No, we don't read books. Ever. Everybody's asking what everybody's reading. I am reading Lonesome Dove, which is chunky. I am about quarter of the way through it.
Okay.
And it's really good so far. Brian says I missed his comment. That was, hope you're all having a marvelous Sunday. I'm glad I got to use the word marvelous. So you don't actually have to leave, Brian.
Yeah. Oh, Colton. Yeah, Fever Dream is a really good book. I was surprised when I read it for the first time. So yeah,
I picked that up and I've got it on my shelf and I've been wondering, but
it's good.
I'm interested.
It's got vampires on like a Mississippi riverboat. It's really cool.
Right. Rogue is reading GGK's Last Light of the Sun. Yeah, GGK has become really popular in our corner of BookTube. Like it seems like there are a lot of people talking about GGK lately. Tori's 150 pages into Lonesome Dove. I'm 230 pages in this edition anyway. I've got the UK edition, so probably a bit different than. Gus is hilarious. Yes, Gus is awesome. Gus is one of the characters in Lonesome Dove. I'm really surprised so far how little it has to do with being a cowboy and how much it has to do with getting laid.
And there, I thought like being a cowboy is all about getting laid.
Well, I expected being a cowboy to have more to do with cows, at least, than it seems to. Okay. It seems to be mostly a number of guys fighting over the only whore in town. Is sort of the first quarter of the book, but it's really good. It's really good. Will I read the first line of Lonesome Dove? Yes, I will, Brian. When Augustus came out on the porch, the blue pigs were eating a rattlesnake. Not a very big one. That's the first line. Okay. It had probably just been crawling around looking for shade when it ran into the pigs. They were having a fine tug of war with it, and its rattling days were over. The sow had it by the neck, and the shoat had the tail. That's the first paragraph. Yeah. Ready to move past the Lorena sections. Lorena's the only whore in town. More interested in literally everything else. Yeah. And I mean, of course, once they get out of town, that all changes a bit. Terry is also reading Lonesome Dove, about 40%. So ahead of me and Tori. It's really good. Anyone who doesn't happen to know it, we are on the Fireside Discord. We're having a Lonesome Dove read-along in the month of July. So we have started. Some people are way ahead of me. And some people haven't started yet, like Alicia. Starting this week. Family is in town, so less time to read. Understandable.
I've been rereading Black Company again. It's good.
You've restarted a reread of Black Company, or you're continuing rereading? Because where were you? Silver Spike or something?
No. Obviously, I've read the entire series 4 or 5 times, and I've made videos all the way up to She Is the Darkness, and then I stopped making videos about it for whatever reason.
Right.
And I decided to finally, make videos for Water Sleeps and Soldiers Live. But in case to do that, I want to be caught up, so I started another reread, and once again back with Shadow Games now, which is the fourth book in the main sequence, and
cool. Brian is finally getting into Disquiet Gods, or rather, Disquiet Gods is finally appealing to Brian. 300 pages. Yeah, Disquiet Gods is weird. It's the, I would say, in the whole Sun Eater series, it's the most mixed book. Like, the beginning is very slow because the end of the previous book was felt kind of like an end, a real end, where things wound down. Mm-hmm. And the beginning of Disquiet Gods is winding back up, and then things start happening, but slowly. And yeah, it does take a little while to get back to Howling Dark form, as Brian calls it. Dornell also loved Fever Dream. Top 5 vampire book, apparently, for him. Streets of Laredo. Someone was telling me today, Rogue, like, everybody says Lonesome Dove is amazing. And this friend of mine, actually the guy I was playing board games with yesterday, he loved Lonesome Dove. He liked Streets of Laredo, and he was disappointed in Comanche Moon. I think it's called Comanche Moon, the third book. Yeah, Terry, it's Streets of Laredo is meant to be good from what I've heard, but not as good. Not as good as Lonesome Dove. It seems a hard thing to match. Like, Lonesome Dove seems like a sort of legendary, universally loved book. Larry is also rereading Black Company.
Yeah, and Silver Spike. I finished Silver Spike, my reread of Silver Spike on Friday. And Thornell, the names are certainly a thing with Glenn Cook. And yeah, I mean, if you can get away with calling yourself the Dominator, then sure, why not, right? In fact, a Dominator, it was always hard for me to take that seriously because some acquaintances of mine had a punk band, and that punk band was called Dominator, because Dominator was a old East German beer name as well, and they named their punk band after that
Okay.
cheap East German beer, which was called Dominator. And then I read Black Company, and I always thought of the Dominator as that guy that's named after the cheap East German beer, which
It just sounds like a comic book villain from an off-brand comic book series, like not
Yeah.
Marvel or DC, like some unknown cheapo comic book would have the bad guy would be the Dominator.
Yeah, it's sort of like the Homelander style of comic book villain or hero name.
Yeah. Yay, Tori. Tori's done a lot of writing the past few days, getting further into Cold Silver, which is her extension sort of the short story that was in the Advent of Winter. It's basically I think her pitch for it when she first told me about it was necromancer bounty hunter in the Yukon. So it's kind of Wild Westish, but it's a fantasy world with magic, and the main character is a badass lady who is a bounty hunter necromancer. She's close to halfway done with the first draft. Yay! I'm looking forward to reading it. The short story kicked arse and was very, very fun. But I must say, Tori, do not neglect Bloodstones 2, otherwise known as the Queen's Wolf, or I think it's called the Queen's Wolf, the second book. I'm joking. Write however you want to write. Morton is here. Promises not to lurk. Thank you, Morton. We hate a lurker. No, also kidding. Don't hate lurkers.
I'm glad, Morton, you like the Dragonbone Chair. It is a very entertaining book. I can say that much.
I really have to. That's like one of the big time classic fantasy series that I have not read. Like I don't know why I didn't read Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn like 30 years ago, but I should have, but I didn't. Yeah. Dragonbone Chair is apparently awesome, although it's quite a slow burn kind of style from what I've heard.
Yeah, it is. It's probably the one book that kind of manages to recapture the very specific Tolkien magic that Lord of the Rings has the best from a lot of these very classic fantasy books that try to do that. I think Ted Williams is probably the best at recapturing that very specific atmosphere. It's like very much an autumn kind of book. It's something you can read in autumn when you spend like hours and hours just like drinking tea and reading this kind of fantasy while it's raining outside. That kind of book is
right. Okay.
I really liked it for that. And the final one is coming out in November this time, like the fourth part of The Last King of Ostenard. So
yeah, I've kind of been
time to
Yeah, I've kind of been following that on Jimmy's channel because he's a big Tad Chad, and he's into that last series now, and has been talking about it. Tori has been working on the Queen's Wolf, which is good. Just straightening out threads and making sure everything makes sense, figuring out some important pieces. Tori, you are not really allowed to suggest that we buddy read anything together until we buddy read at least the first book of Black Company together, because that's already, we've been talking about that for like a year, I think. And it's much shorter and quicker than Dragonbone Chair, which is chunky.
One eye's handicap in no way inhibits his hindsight.
Yes.
Such a good opening.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw what was it? AP and Philip did a analysis of the first page or first few paragraphs of it.
It's so good. That opening paragraph of Black Company is so incredibly good.
Yeah, he packs so much into such sparse language, really simple language, but wow.
that's kind of the thing I've realized. Like every time I read Black Company again, there's more stuff I realize that was in those sentences that I just didn't pick up on the first time, or the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time. And
Yeah.
it's really impressive, like how much information he packs into this like very specific style. And because it's all first person narrative, like later when you have a different first person narrator, like how the style shifts depending
It's
on the
really
narrator.
obvious that someone else is writing it now, yeah. Yeah, he does voice very well.
Yeah.
Terry says he read Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn a long time ago, doesn't remember it much, just that it was good. And Jerome says it reminded him more of Sword in the Stone than Lord of the Rings. Okay. I don't have any opinion on that because I haven't read it.
I don't think. I mean, it didn't remind me of Sword in the Stone in that it doesn't have that very specific sort of playful narrator voice that Sword in the Stone, like the entire T.H. White Once and Future King, has this very specific sort of very specific narrative voice, in the same way that, say, what's it called? The Hobbit has the same kind of narrator that speaks to the audience directly and makes comments about the characters in the book and so forth.
Yeah.
That's something that T.H. White does in a very good, in a really good way, but it's something that is definitely missing in Tad Williams' writing.
Yeah. Welcome to the screen, Ida, one of our lurkers. Finally got her guts together to join us on screen. Welcome.
Hey.
Hi, Ida.
Hi.
Say hello.
Yeah, gross and balls.
Hey.
Well done. Welcome to the
Hi.
screen for the first time.
Hello.
What are you drinking? Can you hear us, Ida? Can you hear us? I don't think she can hear us.
I am drinking wine and I am totally out of phase. I can, but I can hear you 10 minutes later. Get out of here.
Kid in the background. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tori, I was only joking. We have had multiple successful buddy reads so far, and yes, Black Company first. And I'm still sorry I encouraged you to read Fritz Leiber.
I am still shocked by how much you both hated it on that reread, and Tori on the first read, because
yeah,
I like them despite all. I mean, obviously, all the stuff that you found in there is in there, and I'm aware of it. But like, I still kind of like those books.
Yeah, and I remember reading them ages ago, and I remember the later books were maybe less of those issues, especially because Leiber fridges the girlfriends pretty quickly, and moves the buddy story on without them pretty quickly. But yeah. Black Company isn't anything like that, Tori. Don't worry. And Rogue is saying Tori will like Dragonbone Chair. I think so too.
He doesn't think Tori will like it.
Oh, doesn't think. Yeah. No, I don't know why that would be. Why would Tori not like it?
I don't know Tori well enough to make any judgments on that. I can see people that are used to a more modern fantasy style, the George R. Martin, Joe Abercrombie, Malazan, in a way, like a 2000s and 90s style of writing fantasy. I think it can be kind of hard to get into Dragonbone Chair because it does have that very, very slow pace and does have that very specific older way of writing that I think can be sort of difficult to get into if you're not already sort of used to it. So that's sort of where I can see how people might bounce off Dragonbone Chair, because it takes a long time to get anywhere.
Yeah, but Tori specifically has read, for example, Farseer and liked it. Bounced off Leibships for reasons other than Robin Hobb's writing. But I mean, if you like Robin Hobb anything, you obviously don't have a problem with slow, like slow burns cannot be a real problem for you. Cool aspect of the Black Company, the shift in tone as new narrators take over the duties. A lot of people bounce before that happens. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True. Epic's here. Haven't seen you in a while, Epic. Welcome.
Yeah.
I think I fixed my sound. I fixed my sound. It worked.
Hooray!
Cool. Welcome, Ida. Finally. Jerome thinks Tori and I would have liked Liber more if we'd started with book 2. Yeah, probably. I think a lot of the issues which are very pronounced in that first story are far less pronounced in later stories. Like I said, I mean, he fridges the girlfriends pretty quickly, so whatever he thinks of women or however he writes women, you don't have to worry about it anymore because the women are gone. So yeah. I'm sorry you're sick, Bex. You're welcome to look. Enjoy.
Well, Tori, if you're in your slow burn epic fantasy phase, then yes, try the Dragonbone chair. It does certainly burn very slowly. It's more like that kind of peat fire that is underground for years, and then suddenly, your entire moor is on fire and heating up the planet even faster.
It's an underground peat fire.
Yeah.
That's a unique review. Hello, Britain. You okie dude.
Hi, Britain.
Hello.
Ida's on screen, Britain.
Hi, Ida.
Hello, I did something really brave.
Yeah, well done. How many glasses of wine did you have to drink before you were brave enough?
Glasses?
Yeah.
That's empty.
Okay. A whole bottle.
Okay, I drank some of it yesterday.
Of glasses.
Not that bad.
Okay.
Yeah, I drank way too much yesterday because we did my annual shortly after my birthday. We just hang out with a bunch of people in the castle gardens and annoy everyone else by doing heavy metal things, possibly without shirts.
Doing heavy metal things, possibly without shirts. Okay.
Until like the Nazi frat boys call the cops on us, which they sometimes do.
Yeah, got to watch out for those Nazi frat boys.
Yeah, they're letting down both the Nazi and the frat boy side by calling the cops on partying people. I mean, come on.
I just got back from a trip, so.
Ooh,
Do you mean a chemical trip, or like did you actually travel?
No, like I actually travel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where did you travel to?
I visited my grandparents out in Arkansas.
Ah, Kansas. Cool.
Yeah. Had some pizza. It was pretty good.
Right.
A pretty good pizza place out there.
That's the highlight of visiting your grandparents. Arkansas.
And also we saw some we saw fireworks. Though on July 4th we got rained out. I was pretty upset about that. I was like, I have an American passport. I was born in America, but I've not been in America so long that I didn't notice it was the 4th of July until somebody else told me. I think actually it was Tori. We were texting and she mentioned something about fireworks and people partying, and I was like, why? Oh, right. It's okay. I understand.
It's also
America Freedom Day.
It's also one of those really interesting things where I feel like as a German, we don't have that kind of national holidays. Obviously, I have friends in all kinds of countries, and a lot of countries do have like their like national holiday, 4th of July, but the 14th of July for France and so forth. And Germany does have one of those, 3rd of October, but it's not exactly the kind. It's not celebrated that much. It's more like we have like our.
It's not that big a deal.
Eastern German town, give a speech and have a bunch of Nazis throw rocks at them.
Yeah,
which I think is usually how we celebrate 3rd of October.
Yeah, Father's Day is a bigger deal in Germany than the 3rd of October, because you've got all sorts of dudes, fathers walking around, especially in smaller like towns. They walk around pulling a cart behind them, which is full of alcohol, and they just walk around with a cart.
The famous German card called a Bollerwagen.
Bollerwagen, yeah.
Yeah, we do that as
Don't
well.
think
Like,
that's how they do it elsewhere.
What's that?
Father's Day. Isn't that where you like sit at home and your kids bring you chocolate or whatever?
nah, not
Well,
not
like
Germany.
in America, like you get gifts from your family
Yeah.
or whatever.
Like
But in-
homemade cards and stuff.
Yeah, and ugly ties and those kinds of things. But in Germany, it's like just a bunch of guys get together and walk around outside drinking a lot.
It's a public drinking and hiking holiday. It's also
Basically, yeah.
on Christ Ascension Day, which is the thing that people mostly forget, which is why it's actually a holiday and not just Father's Day.
It doesn't have anything to do with fathers. It's actually
No,
a
But
Christian
it's always
holiday.
on the
yeah.
same day.
Yeah, it's always on the same day, which is Christ
In the UK,
Ascension.
they like to change it, so you have to actually pay attention to know when Father's Day is. I always forget it. It's a different day in Denmark anyway, where my father is. And I try to call him, but I usually forget. And then do it on the British Father's Day, which is a different day.
Are you in the UK, Ida?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I knew you were Danish, but I guess I had assumed you were in Denmark. But
I wish I were.
in Denmark, why aren't you?
Variety of reasons.
Fair enough. You have a tabby cat, Britton.
I do. Yes.
Was, was just clawing the back
Yeah,
of your
half and half.
chair.
Off you go.
Yeah, she does that.
What's a cat called, Britain?
Jerry.
Jerry.
It's called Jerry.
I knew that.
And your mouse is called Tom.
Yeah, I assume so.
Sadly, I did not have a mouse, but yes,
Oh.
I would probably call them Tom. It would be pretty funny.
I think it's actually required by law.
Yeah.
If you have one that's called Jerry, the other one's got to be Tom.
Yeah, that's true.
I
Yeah, but
keep
it's
thinking
the
about
cat-
getting.
The cat that's got to be Tom. The mouse
Yeah.
would be Jerry.
Yeah, technically, Britain's got it backwards, but yeah. But it would be kind of funny to have a mouse called Tom if you have a cat called Jerry. I keep thinking about getting another cat, just that Fitz has company, and if I ever do, it'll have to be called the Fool.
The Fool.
Just because, like,
Yeah,
what
Yeah,
else
that makes
could I
sense.
call him?
that's true.
Have to be Fitz and the Fool. Anyway, do we feel like doing a sprint? Two things. One, I have to go a bit earlier tonight, like at 10. I probably need to end it and log off. And two, I would like to do sprints because this is a really big book, but it's also really good, and I'm enjoying it. And I'd like
Oh
to read
yeah,
more of it.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're reading that right now, Matt.
We are.
We're it's pretty good so far. I've only gotten like 6 chapters
pretty-
in.
It's pretty damn good. I said in the
Can't
read along
wait to get
channel.
further in it, but I'm kind of focused on finishing Jonathan Strange, Mr. Norrell right now. But also,
You've got a whole
do
month.
like-
We're not.
true. That's true.
You
We're
do
not,
like War Stoppers, I presume, right? Because Jonathan
Yeah.
Strange might be slightly longer than Lonesome Dove, but not much.
Yeah, if you stack up Jonathan Strange and Lonesome Dove, they're as tall as Britain.
Are you
Almost.
told Britain?
Not
I'm also reading The
not very tall, I
Strange,
don't think.
sort of a palate cleanser book, which is pretty good. So
Okay.
there we go. Thinking of
Cool.
finishing that today.
All right. Well, shall we? Oh, you're reading Amber. That's
I am.
right. Ida, congratulations.
Which one? How far along are you?
I have read the first book
Okay.
and I've started the second.
The second one has
It's
arguably
very
the best title of the lot, because The Guns of Avalon is just such a good book name.
No, it doesn't use a lot of unusual words. It's all like
No.
I haven't had to look anything up yet, but he uses very ordinary words in very extraordinary ways, and I quite like it. Quite like the style.
It's really cool. It also is back from that time when authors were still like very much into both Jungian and Freudian psychoanalysis for reasons.
And you can see where Erickson's got some of his ideas from.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
The Deck of Dragons.
The Deck of Dragons
Probably
is
from
like.
that.
As soon as I read the Deck of Dragons, I was like, Erickson's
Thomas.
read Amber. Yeah. No,
Which
it's
is good.
definitely it's inspired a lot of things. A
Yeah.
lot of things.
I think Jenny Watts had said that her writing was also inspired, but I haven't seen anything yet that I'm thinking, oh, that's where he got that from. But I've only
Yeah.
one book in.
Yeah. No, it's very, very good. I really enjoyed it. And people say like the whole thing is 10 books. I think the edition you've got is the first 5. And those are Corwin stories, and then the
The
second
Merlin
5
stories.
are Merlin stories, which is Corwin's son.
I was wondering if
And-
it was going to stick with that character because it's a first-person narrator, and
The first 5 are all
usually I
Corwin.
don't like reading first-person narratives, but I don't mind with this one.
It's also been like highly influential on George R. Martin. I think George R. Martin has said a lot about liking and being a fan and friend and whatnot of Roger Zelazny.
Yeah. Larry says it doesn't hold up as well as Black Company, but still definitely enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
Also, I was reading Cloud Atlas. Daniel says it's awesome, but it's a bit. Yeah, it starts out difficult.
Brian's a madman. He's just reading all difficult books. You're not difficult books because I don't want.
I mean, Cloud Atlas isn't that difficult. It's
like
just,
Malazan. He's reading freaking Malazan. He read the freaking Worm Ouroboros. He read Cloud Atlas. I'm like, dude, what is this?
The Worm Ouroboros is difficult.
Yeah.
Malazan comparatively is not difficult, and Cloud Atlas compared to Malazan is a breeze. It's just a weird chronology the way the stories are told. And once you get how it's structured, then it's not.
Though my point is, he's kind of just jumping in. He's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, buddy, let's do it.
But that's the best way to read books, to not get intimidated by people online telling you that they're difficult books. Just try it.
Exactly.
See what works. And then you can always go and reread some Gene Wolfe and see how you feel.
Yeah, exactly. If you're feeling like your reading is too easy, go read some Gene Wolfe. Yeah. Who is your favorite Amber Prince and why? To hell with them. All hail Dworkin. Indeed.
I quite like Eric. He seems to know what he's doing.
Yeah, I thought you would like Eric. I thought I'd like when I asked you that on the Discord, and I thought Ida being Ida and Ida always having a hot take, her favorite is going to be Eric.
I have a feeling this is going to last long. He's going to get killed off, but maybe not then.
Eric is like probably the one Amber Prince who actually does play it straight and tries to be like, doing the right thing for once.
No, that's not true. What about Gerard? Gerard is pretty straight.
Yeah, Gerard too. Like my favorite, however, is definitely Random.
I would say Gerard or Random.
He's got the best name, Random.
Yeah. Random's also like the rock and roll prince. I mean, he just like fucks up and hangs out in some other place and plays drums in a jazz band for years. And I'm like, yeah, that's relatable. It's like
totally understandable. That's what I would do if I was a Prince of Amber.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
why not?
Anyway, do we want to?
I would be walking the shadows.
Want to do a splint until
I could sure read some more Black Company.
Let's say 10 past. If everyone's cool with that.
That sounds good.
Don't forget to mute yourselves and enjoy your reading. Everyone likes Gerard. Yes, everyone must like Gerard. It's required. Gerard's awesome. Hello.
Well, I was gonna finish this chapter, but
I was also going to finish my chapter, but I didn't because clocks are a thing. Gerard is every scum save gamer ever. Okay. Yeah. Listen to Jimmy. Jimmy knows. Rogue.
what darkness lies in the heart of man? The shadow knows.
The first story in Embers is kind of weird and not technically very representative of the rest of the series because it starts with a character who has amnesia, and half of the book basically is him getting his life back. And once he gets everything back, then the real story starts. But
in fancy terms, the manure hits the windmill.
Exactly. There's plenty of manure to hit the windmill in Amber. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jimmy meant Cloud Atlas. Okay. Yeah, Cloud Atlas, I totally think it's an awesome book and extremely worth reading, even though it's a bit weird to get into. But if you go into it already knowing sort of that the structure is a bit strange, that it's a collection of linked short stories that are set in extremely different times with different characters, but there is a link through all of those short stories.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an odd structure that the short stories go forward in time from 19th century or 18th, 17th century, I don't remember, to sometime in the future.
And then they go back, right?
And then they go backwards again. So you get a short story with some people in historical times, which is the first story and the last story. Anyway.
I still need to read that book because I got it like way back and it's been in my Audible library. It's like one of the few unlistened to things I own or unread books I own is Cloud Atlas. And I have this weird suspicion that David Mitchell is definitely the kind of author I like. I just like never got around to reading that one.
I think you would like Dave Mitchell. Yeah.
I have never heard of Cloud Atlas. Did Dave Mitchell?
Never heard of Cloud Atlas.
I have never heard.
They even made a movie about it.
They even made a movie with Tom Hanks.
I don't.
Yes, the Wachowskis and their greatness.
Yeah, the movie I wasn't super crazy about, but the book is excellent. Absolutely, hands down. Thornall says, Britton, why haven't you started Ayn Rand or Ayn Rand? How do you ever understand sort of truth?
I have read Ayn Rand.
How much did it hurt you?
Yeah, I was going to say you didn't need to. Show me on the scroll where Ayn Rand hurt you.
It's kind of I have a weird relationship with Ayn Rand's work.
I think everybody does.
I don't really, because generally, like there was one person who I read the other day that put it quite nicely. Like the first 90% of Ayn Rand's stuff, you're like, yeah, okay, I can get behind that. And then there's like, and then she just starts saying her other crap, and you're like, hold on a second, no. That's kind of how it works for me.
There's this wonderful quote about Ayn Rand in what's his name, Corey Robbins' book, The Reactionary Mind, which is a really good book. I highly recommend reading that as a nonfiction book on specific ideas of like reactionarism from all the way back from the 18th century to now. And
Sword of Truth sucks. I hate. It's probably my most. Well, that and Aragon is probably my most hated fantasy novel of all time.
Yeah, and he has this wonderful quote. It's like St. Petersburg in Rebellion gave us Vladimir Nabokov, Isaiah Berlin, and Ayn Rand. One was a novelist, one was a philosopher, one thought she was both and was neither.
Yeah. I've never read any Ayn Rand, so I can't really have an educated opinion on it. But Just from hearing people talk about
yeah.
it, I've always gotten the feeling that it's the kind of thing that people in high school read when they want to seem more intelligent than they are.
We the Living and the Fountainhead are fine. Like I think they're solid. Atlas Shrugged has a lot of interesting ideas. It's just really preachy, and her nonfiction is just absolutely dreadful. So I don't recommend reading that at all.
Good. I've never read her. I was wondering whether I should, but I won't then.
No, you don't need to, I think.
Like, at least read Anthem if you're curious. That gives you a good idea of what her
apparently
style is. If you don't like it, fine. If you do, okay.
Apparently Ayn Rand ruined Daniel's marriage, so she's that bad. Daniel, by the way, I saw on somebody else's stream a week or two ago, you said you grew up in McLean, Virginia. So did I. I probably lived around the corner from you when I was a teenager. I went to Langley High School, which I'm sure you know, and hung out in Great Falls a lot because Langley High School is full of either embassy brats or extremely rich kids. And
you were neither.
I was an embassy kid, but all my friends were rich kids, and all the rich families live in Great Falls. So we literally, like, when we were early teen, Justin, one of my friends, we'd go to his house, and it was just him and his dad in a 10-bedroom mansion, like insanely huge house. I've never been in a bigger house that didn't belong to someone famous. And we used to run around the house. Like one of our like, we're bored, we're going to waste some time, was run around the house and open everything that could be opened. So every door, every cupboard, everything. And it took a good 20 minutes because the house was so big. And his dad used to say things like, you guys are making too much noise. Here's my credit card. Go to dinner. Take the Porsche. Yeah. And he's like, if you want to go somewhere nice, go into my changing room and just get a couple of ties. And we would take his Porsche, which had diplomatic plates on it because he was a defense contractor, which meant the police legally could not stop us. Two teenagers driving a Porsche. And we drive into town and go to the most expensive place we could find. We went to Dominique's, which is a very fancy French restaurant in Washington, D.C. And it all went on his dad's platinum card, you know.
Yeah, and that's why we need to do to all these people what happens to the PR department of the Serious Cybernetics Corporation when the revolution comes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of scary to me that I actually know these people, because it's totally not at all my kind of scene, but it's just where I sort of ended up because situation, you know.
I've only been to Virginia once, so
it's probably enough.
Yeah, I went to Virginia Beach. It was actually pretty nice.
Actually, Virginia Beach is nice. I lived in Virginia Beach for a year.
Where haven't you been, man? My God.
South America. I haven't been to South America. I haven't been to a lot of places, but I have traveled a fair bit.
I've never been out of Europe, sort of. I mean, obviously, I've been to Israel and I've been to Iceland, but they're sort of like Europe adjacent.
Europe-ish.
Yeah. Iceland is awesome. I've never been out of Europe, but I'd go back to Iceland before anywhere else.
They're both like Eurovision Europe.
Yeah.
I love Larry's dedication here.
Also, Katja, you stopped reading Song for a Bond. Did it get even worse, or did you have like a reason to stop for? Because you just wanted to be really depressed by Scott Baker. Because we talked about like earlier that Katja started A Song for a Bond, which I started last year, and then kind of got sidetracked by all kinds of stuff, but also got put off by this weird, unnecessarily crude sexual stuff in like chapter 3?
Daniel sounds like he had a similar childhood to me. He said as a kid he lived in Burkina Faso, the Ivory Coast, or Pittsburgh. Yeah. I was in Washington, D.C., Canberra, Australia, and sort of between those, or in St. Augustine, Florida.
I have
Not
only
quite
lived
as
in Oklahoma.
exotic.
Unfortunately.
That's because you're some Okie dude.
Uh-huh. Yes,
It's
is.
absolutely appropriate that you've only
Well-
Larry, that is, you get the gold medal for dedication to beer.
Yeah, I know. I laughed at that. I'm like,
Drove
that's
from Michigan to
dedication right there.
Virginia to get beer. Michigan didn't have beer during the lockdowns, or I guess the shops were completely closed or whatever. Yeah, I mean, even at the worst time of lockdowns here, grocery stores were open, so you could go and get your whatever.
But you had to queue to get into them because they were allowing fewer people in there.
Yeah. Oh, it wasn't that bad in Berlin.
It took a whole day, stand in line for half a day
What?
just to get your shopping in the UK.
Oh, damn! No, I
No, that's
didn't.
because you
Didn't
live
have
in a
any of those.
That's because you live in a failed state, Ida.
But now we got a new government. Can we believe
Then
in
everything
it?
will everything will
to.
be fine with Keir Starmer, who will do everything the Tories do, just be less obnoxious about it and be more of like a bureaucrat about it. But it won't get better. I'm
too
sorry.
optimistic. I'm just thinking, these people, they fought hard to be in that position. Surely they want to do what's right for the country.
No.
Second referendum
Well,
on
think,
Brexit
well,
would be
think
nice.
about my country. We literally, our Supreme Court literally said that the president can be above the law.
Yeah, you elected yourself a god king.
But
Yeah,
And the
I'm
fun
just-
thing,
kinda.
the fun thing that no one is thinking about is that, like, right now, Joe Biden is that god king, and he could just like drone strike the Supreme Court if he wanted to right now.
yeah, and
That's
Joe
that's
Biden
the beginning of a
had to step out there.
dystopian science fiction novel.
And
Joe
Joe
Biden
Biden
drone
had to
strikes
step
the-
out there, and he's all like, "Guys, this is
Yeah,
bad."
Like that,
Like-
Joe Biden drone striking the Supreme Court, becoming the undead emperor, and they have to like sacrifice thousands of psychers every day to him so to keep him alive. I
Joe
could see
Biden
that
is a
happening.
lich. Yeah,
I
exactly.
always thought he sounded kind of reasonable.
when he's lucid, yeah.
It's bad. It's really
Well,
bad.
listen to
right
him when
now.
he's lucid and just let him have his, age thing that's happening.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, I would rather have a doddering lich than the other option. So
Who is, let's face it, also a doddering lich, but he's also an angry
Yeah.
doddering lich.
yeah, but he's a lich that is not kept together by kept together by love. He's kept together by money,
Yeah,
and that makes a difference.
which is more powerful.
Daniel knows Virginia. Too many shotguns in Virginia to close down liquor stores. That is true. When you get out of the urban areas in Virginia, it gets pretty wild.
like Lich, like
Redneck
the
as
like the D&D Lich. Like,
Yes.
yes.
oh, I'm so confused.
Did you know that?
Lich? What
Did
the
you
hell?
know that liches are slightly anti-Semitic?
What is an anti-Semitic, Raph? Come on.
Okay, so here's the things. Like, I'm just throwing
If you're
this out.
talking to Raf, everything is anti-Semitic.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Your
Um,
grocery store is anti-Semitic.
Probably, but I haven't checked. No, so it was interesting to see that. I read an article on that, which is like liches are obviously undead monsters, and they're really evil and bad and so forth.
Yes.
And as if you're a D&D nerd, you know that they have sort of like this important thing where they keep their soul that you need to
A
destroy.
phylactery.
Yes, and do you know where the term
D&D nerd
phylactery-
here.
Yes, and do you know what a phylactery usually is and where it comes from?
I used to know this. I remember reading something, but I don't remember.
It's a vessel where you keep a part of the Torah. It's a very specific.
That's right. That's right.
It's a very specific thing for very religiously observant Jews,
Yeah.
and that's where the anti-Semitism for the liches comes in. I'm not fully
Dan-
buying that.
Daniel says liches are slightly anti-Semitic, but are extremely prejudiced against gnomes. Yes. Indeed. No, Michael, Joe Biden is not still alive. We said he is a lich.
Seriously though,
Technically, he's undead.
on the real though. I'm very worried about my country right now.
Do you think we're joking about Joe Biden being a lich? I'm very worried about your country too. It's also my country, but I luckily have other options.
So, Britain, are you planning to get out of it? Do some traveling.
Hell, I don't know if my parents would, because I don't have a lot of money. And my parents, I'm still living with my parents. They'd probably be like, Britain, you're being dramatic. Calm down.
Can I really strongly recommend, as someone who also grew up in the US, but then traveled a lot, that you also get out of the country, at least for a trip. Like go to Europe, go to Asia, go somewhere and see something else.
Maybe try. And this is like you studied college, right? Like I don't know, try to get some study abroad thing and just do that, because sometimes you can get like some funds for that. So you don't have to, worry too much about the money and just do like a study abroad thing first.
Yep.
Like
a lot of universities have a semester or a year abroad exchange program with a university somewhere else in the world.
That costs a lot of money though, because that's how I ended up in the UK. Sure. I was an exchange student back in 2008, and yeah, I paid quite a lot of money for that, and I never made it home. So be careful, Britain.
Yeah, I mean, I would love. It's funny you guys are saying that, because I was in a media law class last month, and my teacher's like, "Here's what you do after you get out of class: travel abroad if you can."
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, maybe I'll do that someday if I, I'll have to figure out how I'm gonna
at the very worst, you could graduate university, remain living with your parents for 1 year, and work at McDonald's, and you would have more than enough money to go overseas. I'm serious.
And then you can always.
I'm totally serious. The money is not the problem. The problem is deciding to do it and wanting it enough. If you decide to do it and you want it enough, you can get the money very easily.
Yeah.
You can always become do the thing that all Australians do, which is, be a barkeeper in London.
Exactly.
Which is
although
all Australian barkeepers.
Yeah, the reason Australians do that is Australia belongs to the Commonwealth and has a deal with
you get like visa thing. You can go there
up until you're 28. I found out about that deal on my 28th birthday.
Sounds like frustrating.
Exactly when it ended. And I was about to go on a big trip, and I was thinking, I don't know where I'm going to go. I'm just going to travel for a while in Europe.
Emperor of USA.
And on my 28th birthday, in an Irish pub in Australia, a British guy told me, "Hey, you can do the working holiday visa, young person, whatever it's called, thing with the UK." I was like, "Cool." He's like, "Yeah, I was between the ages of 20 and 28, I think it is." I was like, "Dude, this is my 28th birthday party." So yeah, Evie's right. Switching to book talk. What are we all reading?
I'm hoping to finish The Strange today by Nathan Ballingrud.
Ida is reading Amber, which is awesome.
I'm also reading Lonesome Dove with Matt, so there we go.
Yeah.
And I am about done with Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which is kind of a miracle.
And I'm almost done with my reread of Shadow Games, because I decided to reread Black Company again, Evie. So I might catch up with you sometime this week. Because they are.
Thornell just started Lonesome Dove during the last sprint. Awesome.
Is that worth the hype then, Lonesome Dove?
What's that?
Is it worth the hype? I picked it up in a bookstore once, and I read the blurb on the back, and I flicked through the pages, and I wasn't impressed enough to buy it.
I think it depends a lot on, like, are you someone that not everybody falls clearly into one or the other category, but a lot of people I know fall clearly into a category of very focused on characters in their books or very focused on plot in their books. And if you're a character-focused reader, it's awesome.
So basically, it doesn't have a plot.
No, it's not that it doesn't have a plot, but not that much happens so far. And I'm like a quarter or third maybe, of the way through it.
How far are you in a Lonesome Dove, Matt?
I think I just got into chapter 29.
That's
Yeah.
more page number, but okay, yeah, okay.
Well, I have a different edition,
Oh,
so I'm not sure it would translate. This is a UK edition, so
oh.
I don't know if the page numbers are
I
different.
think
but-
it's the same copy Carlos has.
Yeah, because we're both in Europe. I'm 250 pages in.
Ooh, Evie, that is a great book. Mystic River, that is. It's a fantastic book.
No, I
Annual
thought you
reread
meant
of
Persuasion. That is a fantastic book.
I haven't read Persuasion, unfortunately, but
You
I'm sure
should.
it is a fantastic book.
I bought a nice little edition, like the Penguin cloth-bound edition of Persuasion, because Evie, basically, and I haven't read it yet.
If you hung out with Alicia, Evie, she loves Jane Austen.
I think that is known. I mean, between them, so to speak. Michael is reading Dresden Files to help get Cloud Atlas off the brain.
Yeah, Dresden Files seems like a good palate cleanser type of read.
It's
If you-
like
if
the
you can get
definition of
past-
a palate cleanser.
If you can get past all the really creepy
Male
weird
gazy stuff. Yeah.
all the points when he starts counting nipple piercings of underage girls.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a fair bit of that, especially at the beginning. It gets less as the series goes on, if I remember correctly.
It does get better, but the beginning and the first, I don't know, 5 novels are incredibly rough. And that scene where his buddy's Michael's daughter turns goth and is 14 and undresses in front of him. I was like, I don't know, man, that's something I didn't need because
of course.
You had a choice. You had a choice to not put this in your book, and you chose the other way. Yeah,
because it doesn't even add anything to the book, right? You're not Nabokov. You're not writing Lolita. You're not making a point there. You're just like writing about a teenage girl.
Kind of makes Dresden look kind of creepy. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm just like waiting for Tuesday, I think, because I'm really bad with times and dates and stuff. Yeah, Tuesday. Tuesday is when Nevola comes out, and that's what I'm going to read when it comes out. The moment it comes out, I'm going to read Nevola, and it's going to be so fucking good.
All you Fitz fans out there, Fitz is here.
She let you pick her up.
She's actually purring, strangely enough. She hates being posed. So
my cat was really cuddly like that when he was a kitten, but now I don't think he likes me anymore.
I think Fitz is actually being patient because it's near feeding time.
What is the point of Lolita? Well, let me tell you what.
And she's
it's
like,
very hard to tell. Lolita.
Yeah. So what is the point of Lolita?
I think the way I'm reading it, it's been years since I read it. I should probably reread it at some point because
it's kind of tough because it's such a complex book, because there's a lot.
The main point is to try and understand the way pedophiles think, which is something that is reprehensible in all kinds of ways, but it's an interesting sort of exercise in doing that because you only get Humbert's perspective, right? And you only get his idea, and he is talking himself into all these weird things. And as a reader, you kind of know that it's wrong. Well, you should know that it's wrong. But then you have all these other people going and doing adaptations, going like, well, it's all about love, really. And it's like, no, it's not. He's very much abusing that child, and you should be aware of that.
Why would you want to know how a pedophile thinks?
So we can stop them?
I feel that it's important to understand how people think in general, because if you want to, change things, and if you want to make the world a better place, understanding how other people think is a worthwhile.
Is that how a pedophile thinks? The author's not a pedophile. He's just made it up.
Yeah. I don't know.
Right, he was. I think he was actually molested when he was a kid.
Which is the opposite, but
well, no, I'm not saying
because it could give him a view into the mind of his assailant.
But I would assume I know nothing about Nabokov at all, about his life. I would assume that he also maybe did some research, like psychological research. I'm sure there are plenty of case studies about pedophiles out there.
To add on to what Raph is saying, I also think that Nabokov is really trying to. It's really hard to put into words because it's like it's a very visceral experience. I think, or Lolita was for me anyway. he's really trying to test your limits. He's going, okay, how far are you going to empathize with this guy? Like how he loves to test what you believe.
Yeah.
And he's asking you, okay, this guy is scum technically. Why is he scum?
And it's also like the oldest writing trick in the book. If you want to give someone insight and maybe make them sympathize in a way with a character, tell the story first person from that character's point of view.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right. And you are inside that character.
I did a review of Lolita
it.
if you guys want to watch that on my channel.
DK Moon says professionals need to understand, perhaps the general reading population doesn't. There's a reason Lolita's a classic. Like, it's not some weird book that's barely known, written by some pervert or something. You know,
it's not like Nabokov is like
is a classic book.
Oh, yeah,
but it's also, and that's the point. It's like, we as reading public do have the choice. It's like, do I want to do that?
Oh, of
it's
course.
Like, it's like, yeah. I totally understand everyone who goes like, I don't want to read that book because it's, I have strong objections to reading that kind of book, and I'm fine with that. What I find really interesting, two things. Like, the one thing is about getting into the head of the characters. I took a class on aesthetics at university, a course on specifically on knowledge and truth in fiction. And there's a lot of research and philosophical thought done on the fact that, actually, that's sort of like what fiction can do. It can help us become more human and understand the human condition by putting us into all these different heads. It's not a big surprise that someone kind of came up with that idea, but and that's kind of why I think a book like Lolita can be worthwhile. And then obviously you have that historical problem where you see what Nabokov is doing with Lolita, and then you see what everyone else is doing with Lolita, which is exactly kind of the thing that he sort of, if you want to get down to it, goes like, this is wrong, and then everyone puts sexualizes a girl on the cover for like all the different issues of the book, and
which
the movies
would have made Nabokov want to punch him in the neck.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point. To see how society clearly is doing the thing that he's trying to say, this is fucked up, and we're still doing it. So I think there's a reason, there's a need for books like Lolita to do that. There's also obviously the danger that because humans are
flawed,
slow and need very obvious hints. There's a danger of being too clever by half that sort of, I think Lolita kind of can fall into. Some other books obviously also can fall into, where you do the thing and then the culture industry kind of fucks you over by going for the other meaning. Irony and subversion are dangerous, are double-edged swords in that regard, I think. And Lolita kind of is a good example to show that, I think.
Though, to be fair, there is a mini essay at the beginning of the book going like, yeah, this guy's a sick fuck. Here's his story though. Basically just outlining I don't recommend reading that until the end because it basically spoils the whole story, but
never read any kind of foreword or introduction to a novel until after I've read the novel, because they almost always spoil important things. They're always written sort of in a context of.
But I think Lolita is a great book, and I think people should go read it. If you don't like the content, then that's fine. You don't have to read it, but I think it's a great book.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, my reaction to what DK Moon said was more, I'm glad a book like that exists and that people can read it, and it's not just a professional case study of a pedophile for professionals. I'm glad it's out there that the reading population can read it, because I think understanding people, even people that are broken and have real problems like that, I think it's good to understand as many different kinds of people as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's generally when you look at the other books that Nabokov has written, stuff like Pale Fire and Ardor, that's the one. Nabokov was the kind of writer that was very much trying to push the envelope when it comes to trying to see what you can do by writing fiction in a way, right? It's very much about trying to test the reader's patience, test the reader's sanity, and see what you can do, what you can get away with. And I appreciate that. I understand that it's not just entertainment. He's trying to make you angry.
I also really not necessarily enjoy reading, but I'm glad that they exist. Books that tweak people's idea of what's normal, tweak people's idea of like the routine and the rut of acting and thinking that we all get in. And I like books that kind of bump you a little out of that for a bit, you know?
Mm-hmm. I'm a sick bastard. I enjoy testing my limits.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, we all get different stuff out of reading, right? It's like sometimes I want a book that just like is like a warm bath for my brain, and that's cool. And then I go and read, I don't know, Discworld, because I've read them so many times. Or I reread Winnie the Pooh, which is the best novel ever written. And then sometimes I just want to wrestle with a book, and that's sort of where I get my kicks out of going like really like almost antagonistically at that book, and that's where I get like my enjoyment out of that. It's like sort of testing myself against something and wrestling with the text. That's
I also think it's dangerous as a society and potentially a little harmful on an individual level to get 100% comfortable. You know, because like if you're 100% comfortable, you're almost dead.
Yeah.
You know, I think having a bit of challenge and experiencing things that are outside of your comfort zone sometimes is really healthy.
I absolutely agree with you. My issue there is sort of that I think it's being able to do that, being able to challenge yourself in your entertainment, whether it's reading, watching movies, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the kind of privilege that a lot of people don't have. It's like you need to have like, enough mental capacity, freedom, time, whatever, to do that, because sometimes you just want to, switch off and read something cozy because the world is already incredibly hard, dangerous, angry, and a challenging place. So I totally get why people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And there's always
of challenges.
Yes.
When you are reading The Wars of Light and Shadow,
I have no idea. I want to read that. I own The Curse of the Mistwraith, and I will read it at some point.
I've reread it on audiobook, and it is amazing on audiobook.
It's the same guy who does the Bloodsworn Saga. What's his name? I keep forgetting his name, but he does the Bloodsworn Saga stuff of what's his face? John Gwynne. Everyone loves him. I hate the books. I hate the books. They're not good. Anyway, he's a good narrator. No, I'm going to do that. I just thought I'd wait until the second book's actually at least announced as an audiobook, so I know that they'll actually do more, because I don't want to get invested.
If you get into the first one and then it never continues, you're missing 10 books. Yeah.
I know book 10 and 11 are also available in audio. They did book 10 a couple of years ago when it came out. And
so 1 is in audio and 10 and 11 are in audio, but 2 to 9 are not.
Yes, but they started.
It's so good an audiobook. It's made for being read out loud.
Strange.
And they just skip the middle volumes.
I was actually recently discussing this with Tori in a chat, and I listed for her all of the series that I've started that I haven't finished yet.
You started it?
No. The listing all of the series I've started but not finished is a reason to not start it for me.
No, it's not. If you start it, you might really like it, and you might finish it, and it will change your life. That's what it's got in common with Melisande. It's that level of scoop is like
that's true. That's potentially true. But it's also potentially true of the 16 books of the Realm of the Elderlings that I haven't finished yet, and so many other series.
Same.
It's on my list, but I think it's on my list for starting next year, probably sometime. Yeah. I definitely want to start it. I mean, if only because I've seen so many interviews with Jenny Wirtz on BookTube, and she's really cool. That always attracts me to a book. If I have no idea about the book, but I've seen the author speak, and they come across as extremely intelligent, extremely interesting, extremely friendly, all of those things that I'm like, I want to read your books just because I like you.
Yeah.
You know?
I had never seen her in an interview when I started the series, and I just love it. It is as good as Malice
as well. I mean, that's pretty cool.
I'm definitely going to read it at some point. My other thing is that, like, in general, when it comes to series, I really like to binge read. Waiting for the next installment really annoys me.
Trust me, I've gotten after him to read the Dark Star trilogy. He's told me this every time. So
it's just like a thing. It's like I like to binge read series, and that's obviously not an option with Realms with Wars of Light and Shadow. But just to be clear, that weird pause is they did an audiobook when book 10 came out. And then they did an audiobook when book 11 came out, which is, last month, 2 months ago.
Recently. Yeah.
And that's when they also started did the audiobook for book 1. So I assume the goal is to have the others as well, because, audiobooks weren't that much of a thing when those books originally came out. So I hope they're slowly catching up, but who knows?
Thornall, I think everyone at this point has heard about the Neil Gaiman allegations.
I don't really want to talk about them.
I have absolutely nothing to say about it because I have not looked into it, and
I have loads to say about it.
It seems way too early to even try and say anything.
He's admitted to doing things to his kid's nan who worked for him.
Like I said, I don't know anything about it, so I have nothing to say about it.
Sorry.
Right. No, that's fine.
I have loads.
No, I'm not saying nobody else should say anything about it. I'm saying me saying anything about it would be ridiculous
too spicy
because I know nothing about it. I haven't even read an article about it. I saw a link somewhere.
Yeah, it's too spicy. I was just like, I know way more about Neil Gaiman's sex life than I ever wanted to know.
Wanting to know anything about Neil Gaiman's sex life is not a thought that has ever occurred to me. Michael, To Ride Hell's Chasm will be your first Jenny Wirtz. It was also my first Jenny Wirtz. I wanted to taste test of her work without committing to an 11-book series that wasn't finished at the time. I read To Ride Hell's Chasm. I was really strangely mixed on it. I like her writing style.
Like the title.
She's a good writer. I love the title. I agree with you there. But it felt like two different books. The first half where they're not riding Hell's Chasm, and the second half where they ride Hell's Chasm. And the first half I thought was awesome, and the second half felt slow and repetitive and predictable. And I was I had a really hard time saying I love this book, but I don't know. I was very mixed on it. And now I've got. As a huge
fan of Jenny Wirtz, I feel like I should say that To Ride Hell's Chasm was my least favorite, and I have read a lot of her books.
Okay.
You should start with The Gallant. It's a novella, and it's awesome, and it's sort of a prequel to The Wars of Light and Shadow.
I actually got what's it called? To Camelot or Camelot This Way or something like that. I forget what it's called. It's a collection of her short stories, which so far has been pretty good. And some of them are science fiction. I didn't know she had actually written any like straight up science fiction. But yeah.
Anyway, go and read Navola when it comes out. I mean, generally go and read more Paolo Bacigalupi because you really, really want to. Trust me. It's so good. All his
I trust you, Russ.
Do I though? Do I though?
I bought it secondhand because of you. I haven't.
You're holding it up and he can't see it, so I'll tell him what it is.
Can you not?
He's blind. Illuminatus. She's reading the Illuminatus trilogy.
I'm not reading it. I bought it. I will.
Yeah, she will.
I hope you'll have fun with it. Just beware. This is very much postmodern activist anger. It also has really good James Joyce references in it.
And it has very little regard for explaining what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, that's kind of the point.
It's very chaotic and weird.
Yeah.
I like it. I think I like it.
It's a lot of fun.
It's interesting. I mean, it falls in a way. It falls in with a lot of the Thomas Pynchon stuff as well, for me anyway, because you read it, and if you accept the world that is being presented in it, then everything is a conspiracy.
Yes,
like everything in the entire world is being run.
I can believe that.
Unseen by some shady organization.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think it's a lot of fun if you're able to not take yourself very seriously and are willing to not take books seriously as well, while taking them extremely seriously at the same time. It's this weird sort of like both things at the same time.
I can do the thing about taking them extremely serious.
Yeah, well,
don't try and take Illuminatus too seriously. It's a really bad idea. I read it in university.
Yeah,
and I had a really good laugh. And I was reading it with a friend, and he, I think, took it way too seriously.
Yeah.
And like right after reading it, he was super paranoid about all sorts of stuff. And I was like, dude, it's a novel. It's not an expose. It's not a documentary. It's a novel. Like that is not the world we live in.
Yeah.
But a lot of conspiracy theories have turned out to be true. Like Princess Diana didn't die in an accident. There's no way that was an accident.
Has that ever been proven conclusively?
It doesn't need to be proven. It's obvious.
Well, if you're going to say something's true, then it does need to be proven.
No,
and if it's not proven, you can't say it's true.
No proof. No proof at all.
Yeah.
It could be true.
No,
but that's as good as it gets. You can't say it is true.
But that's other conspiracy theories that have been proven true.
You know, it's funny you say that about the Robert Anton Wilson book. I'd say a similar thing about Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Like, don't take it at like face value, because there's a lot of like dry humor and like wordplay in there. I'm really digging that book. If you didn't notice already, man.
But you need to take it seriously. How else will we stop Hitler from living forever? Says Thornall. Yes,
that is true.
That is a good question, Thornall.
You know, Caleb told me about, speaking of Hitler, Caleb from Celebrity.
Speaking of Hitler,
told me about The Abominable the other day by Dan Simmons.
It's good I don't monetize these live streams.
And I had me a good laugh. It was because it sounded like a pretty bad book from all accounts, but man, that twist ending is just it. I had me a laugh. I'll put it that way.
Just quickly, also, That Way Lies Camelot, the Jenny Wirtz short story collection. I forget exactly where you are, but it's somewhere in Scandinavia. If you could theoretically order it from Amazon DE, the German Amazon, because they have it, and it's in English. I mean, they had it in English. I ordered it from them, so you know.
Speaking of Hitler, the one novel about Hitler that I can recommend is A Man Lies Dreaming by Lavie Tidhar, because it's sort of about Hitler.
I still need to get to By Force Alone and read my first Lavie Tidhar. Lolita. We started with anti-Semitism, and now we have pedophilia and
might be banned in Germany, guys.
Definitely no money on this stream. Yeah. Yeah, this is they might even charge me money for putting this stream on there. I don't know.
Aren't you guys like banned from talking about Hitler over there in Germany?
No, we're not.
No.
There are education. There are certain symbols that you're not allowed to wear or show or whatever, and there are certain
obvious ones.
And there's certain gestures you're not allowed to do, which is doing the Hitler salute. That one is if you do that,
you could be arrested for doing that in public.
You could definitely get fined for it. And showing swastikas and a bunch of other symbols like the SS symbol, and there's a collection of those.
Yeah.
Those are forbidden to show outside of an educational or artistic background, which was like a big thing with the Hitler salute garden gnomes a couple of years back. Because someone made garden gnomes showing the Hitler salute, and
which are ironically awesome
in a lot of ways. And then obviously
because what you do with the Hitler salute garden gnome is you put them in a Nazi's garden.
Yeah.
Right. So everybody knows that a Nazi lives here. But they're technically illegal. So
I think they got through by this being art and art being allowed to do that kind of stuff. But I'm not quite sure. It was a huge deal at the time.
Whereas,
yeah.
for your education, Raf, in America, you can go to flea markets and buy Nazi paraphernalia. It's a big collector's
I'm
market.
glad we found this. I'm glad we brought the gnome thing full circle because Tharnall was talking about anti-Semitic liches earlier,
Who
Being very
actually
much
are
against
extremely
Hate
prejudiced
gnome.
against gnomes. Yes,
Yes.
yes, and that was Daniel. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can find another Nazi paraphernalia on German flea markets as well if you look for it. I have
just
a friend.
covering all the hot button topics going on right now, like Hitler and
yeah.
Lolita and
I might just delete the
Gaiman.
recording of this when we're done.
delete this. Done.
Yeah,
No, but that's like the weird part about it is how much you sort of and I think it's difficult to talk about that, but like how much this sort of is very much still haunting like Germany in all kinds of weird ways, and like how we don't talk about it or how we talk about it. And I have a friend from Serbia, and she was in Berlin at a flea market buying some 1930s stuff
Oh,
because she's
geez.
collecting that kind of stuff, and then
Did you see
the
that
guy
thing, though?
the guy
sorry.
selling no, very much not. She's a historian. She's looking for like all kinds of stuff. Anyway, and the guy selling her like some 1930s other stuff was like, "Hey, I also have this," and just like drags out this this 7-armed candelabra Jewish thing, and it's like, "Yeah," and she's like, "No, I'm not going to buy this." And it's like, "No, don't worry, it's all legal and everything." It's like, why does someone selling 1930s German military paraphernalia also
have
these things and then be very, very careful about explaining that yes, it's legal that he also has that? And I'm like, I don't want to dig too deep into that one.
Yeah, this menorah it didn't come from where you think. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's not the menorah. It's not the menorah you're looking for.
Exactly, it's not the menorah you're looking for. Yeah.
So, did you guys? I know Raph is kind of on and off Twitter, but like, have you guys seen this argument about prologues on Twitter, like a few months ago?
Yeah, Joe Burns started it.
Oh, did he? I didn't know that.
That's why he's mentioning it, because it became such a big thing, and he was just joking.
I love Joe.
I think we can conclude that you can skip prologues if you want to. You can skip chapter 1 if you want to. You can skip the whole book if you want to.
No, I'm pretty sure the conclusion was if you don't read prologues, you are a Nazi. I'm pretty sure that was the conclusion.
I love the fact that Joe is basically BookTube's like #1 shit poster on Twitter, because like every time Joe does something on Twitter, he starts a fight.
It explodes. Yes.
And yet he skips the Malazan epigraphs.
Yeah, which
you can't skip it all, obviously.
No, I mean that was the end of my friendship with Joe, when he admitted to not reading epigraphs in Malazan.
Joe Biden doesn't read prologues.
Joe Biden doesn't read prologues, and he hates gnomes. Yep.
Joe Biden reads books.
I don't think his eyes work anymore.
He wrote one, if I remember right, or he had someone help him write it while
he's waiting for the operation where his eyes can be replaced with Donald Trump's phylacteries, so then he can read again. Yeah, Daniel is absolutely correct. In the 90s, if someone had Nazi paraphernalia in flea markets, it would be like, war trophies. That's when I saw them. When I was a kid, like I was 10 or something, my grandmother used to take me to these enormous flea markets in Florida. And there would be a stand, and all they had was swastikas and like SS daggers and uniforms and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sure it was war trophies, but today you would assume that they're Nazis. And that
didn't the swastika mean
probably
something
tracks
else before Hitler stole it?
Yeah, but Hitler attached quite a lot of meaning to it, sort of recognized internationally for that. So saying a swastika is not Nazi is difficult these days,
especially with the kind of paraphernalia you find on flea markets. They're not like
no, I mean the stuff on flea markets, it was Nazi relics or paraphernalia or war trophies or whatever
like
you want to call
part,
it.
Like of growing up in Germany is like obviously we're like, my grandparents were like part of that generation, and neighbors, grandparents, and so forth. And you have these situations where someone who never talks about the war or anything, and then they die, and then you clean out their attic, and suddenly you find all these things, and you're like,
Nazi shit.
holy shit!
Yeah.
now
that was
I do
weird.
have an SS dagger.
That was weird to me when I moved to Germany.
Yeah.
And eventually it became sort of an in-joke piece of jargon between a friend of mine and I.
Mhm.
Nazi Opa. Opa
Yeah.
is granddad.
Yeah.
In German. And everybody in Germany has a Nazi Opa.
What an
It seems,
unfortunate
you know.
name.
Many maybe don't, but it's a real thing. And like my ex-wife, German, we'd go over to her parents' place, and her grandmother would come over like for Christmas or something, and she wouldn't talk about, like, nobody in the family, actually it was the other way around. Nobody in the family except her would talk about her dead husband.
Mm.
I didn't know that he existed. I'd never heard his name. I'd never heard anything about him.
Yeah.
And then grandma, who's really old and starting on the dementia, she would start mentioning her, and the family would shut her up.
Yeah.
Like, let's not talk about him, because he was a Nazi and he didn't come back from the war. I think he got killed somewhere. I don't remember the details, but
Yeah.
and that's sort of like, yes, we have this in our family history, and it's behind a door, and we don't talk about it because it's embarrassing and ugly, you know.
Yeah, but
Is very common.
yeah, of course, because like everyone, like statistically, everyone has that. Like every German has at least one
Sure.
Nazi in their family somewhere.
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
and it's and you know, there's like all kinds of discussions around. It's like, how do you deal with that level of like national trauma in a lot of ways? Like, how do you deal with that? Ignore it and work through it.
Understand it.
Yeah, but there's no script for how to deal with that.
No.
Especially if you have like,
understand a pedophile, you can understand a Nazi.
I'm not saying they can't be understood. I don't think Raph is saying they can't be understood. But like, how does an entire nation deal with that?
It can be hard, is
in
what
a-
I
in
think
a
Raph is
positive and
getting at.
constructive way.
Surely
Like,
there's like books
you
about
don't-
it. I mean, I haven't read any.
There are lots and lots of books about it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so present in Germany in ways that Germans don't even notice anymore. Like when I first came to Germany, I was walking down the street with my girlfriend, who was German, who is my ex-wife, and we walked past a really, really nice old building in Hamburg, and on the sidewalk in front of the building, there were like 8 little bronze squares.
oh, Stolpersteine.
Yeah. 8 little bronze squares set into the sidewalk in front of this building with names and stuff on them. And I stopped and I read them and I was like, that's weird. What is this? And she was like, those are the Jews that used to own this building.
Yeah.
That were killed by the Nazis. And they're everywhere, all over Germany, like in front of buildings everywhere, all
Yeah.
over the place. It's just like a normal part of life. And after a while, you just walk over them and don't really recognize them anymore because it's just such a part of the urban landscape. But it's something that Germany as a whole has done. I think it started as wasn't it an individual artist?
It's an individual artist
Who started doing
that,
it?
and I think
Yeah.
there's like public funding for it now, but it's
Yeah.
an individual artist. And they're still doing this, like still looking for like places where Jews were killed and putting them in.
Yeah.
The German word is Stolperstein, which in English would be stumbling block, and that's the idea that you walk past it and you stumble over
Stumbling
this and you realize-
stone. Yeah.
Yeah.
But aren't there books about how the whole Nazi movement happened? How
Of course.
how did everyone like
It's history.
get like that? Because obviously that's slightly deviant for human nature, or is it? I don't know.
guess
What books would you
But
recommend?
But that's the thing. Is like, there's a lot of books doing all kinds of looking at different aspects of it, and there's like that larger historical thing. But living in Germany, the problem is more like you can do that on sort of like an like distance, sort of like rational ways. I can understand how Germany became Nazi. I can totally do that. But reckoning with the fact that like your granddad or your grandma, who you know as a family member, being part of that's sort of like that personal connection is kind of what makes it so difficult to deal with that sometimes.
And not only your granddad, but your next door neighbor's
Everyone's.
granddad and your best friend's granddad and
Everyone,
like,
yeah.
I remember watching
Elmer,
the
how do you
trailer.
know if
country.
any of them actually were like true believers of the cause, or if they were just like, well, shit, my country are wrong? You know?
Was it about the cause, or was it just about fellowship that they were all banding together doing this thing, which is really horrible, but they're doing it together. So I remember watching a film at school. I think it was called The Wave.
Oh yeah, everyone has watched that one. Yeah,
but I remember what our teacher was telling us was like, actually, if the conditions had been right here, the same would have happened.
And I mean, like Jeroen says, I wish other countries would recognize their shit in their past that well. I mean, the only reason that Germany did isn't because Germans are awesome and much cooler than everybody else in the world. It's because they very, very publicly, internationally lost.
Yeah.
Like they got their asses kicked in a war, and it could have gone entirely the other way. Like if the American settlers had lost against the Indians, it might have been different in America as well. You know, I mean,
there's
like
a parallel universe out there somewhere where that exact thing happened.
Sure.
Yeah.
Orson Scott Card has written some books about it, actually.
One of the things I think is causing our existential crisis in America. I'm sorry, Rev.
Alvin Maker, it's I really liked them when I was in high school, and because the idea of Alvin Maker is at the colonial time, during the colonial times, where it was before the Wild West, so it was still pretty much the East Coast of America. Everything that was sort of a common belief at the time is true. So the hexes that you still see on barns and stuff in Pennsylvania, which are like circular wooden things that are hung on the wall, and they have an intricate design painted on them. They're sort of a mandala. Those are meant to do certain things. They're protection against evil spirits or whatever. And in Alvin Maker, those actually work.
Cool.
And the Native American magic, the shamanism and everything, is actually 100% functional magic. And it's a weird sort of, like, you know a lot more, Raph, about Mormonism than I do, so I'm sure you would probably get a lot of Mormon analysis out of them that I didn't get. But the basic idea is that there's this kid who is growing up with certain kinds of powers, and he is a maker, which means he can actually create magic objects out of almost nothing. And there's a lot of like him and the Native Americans. He learns some of their shamanism and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. Daniel loved them many years ago. I don't know if I would still love them, but I loved them in high school. There are like 7 books, I think, total, and I read all of them multiple times. I mean, obviously, it's very well written. Like really interesting characters, really interesting relationships, and the community relationships, like between the settlers and the army and the Native Americans, and so on.
I'm like, I haven't read any Orson Scott Card because I don't want to give that guy money for reasons.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
And to be fair, I think Ender's Game's a pretty generic book, though apparently Speaker of the Dead's pretty good. So.
Ender's Game is an awesome book. You can shut the fuck up, Britain. I'm kidding. But it is. I love it. I loved Ender's Game. I didn't like Xenocide that much, and I thought Speaker for the Dead was amazing, mostly because of the ideas in it. I don't know. I don't really remember if the story was awesome, but the idea of the religion that comes out of Ender's Xenocide is, I thought, a really cool idea. In fact, I would love for our world to actually have speakers for the dead. People who are neutral when someone dies, and they come in, if requested, and thoroughly research a person's life and present it honestly at their funeral. Really amazing. But yeah, Joe and I think many others agree. Supporting Orson Scott Card's not a great thing. I did all of this many years ago when nobody knew what an Aussie was, and I haven't read anything by him in a long time.
Yeah, that's about it. Like, I feel like I should read Ender's Game and probably some of the other Orson Scott Card stuff, because he is, has been influential and so forth. But yeah, I don't want to give that guy any money. So if I could find secondhand audiobooks, I would probably buy them secondhand.
Maybe you find them in a library.
Secondhand audiobooks don't really exist. But
Well, I
yeah,
mean,
libraries
back
you
back
can
when we still had
back when they were physical. Yeah,
yeah, but when they were still on tapes.
yeah, tapes or CDs or
Yeah. Yeah, but right now, also there's enough other books that I have on my list of stuff that I need to read.
I this is interesting, and I totally agree with Daniel. There is a lot of compassion, insight, and understanding in his work, and it seems really out of character that he became sort of a right-wing nutjob. And I didn't think you were criticizing me, Joe. I didn't take it that way. I was just saying, like, I haven't read anything by him in a long time, and now that we know what we know about him, I wouldn't buy anything else from him.
Yeah.
But Ender's Game is really good. The movie was pretty weak, but the book was really good.
Yeah.
And I thought Xenocide was pretty good, and
Well-
Speaker of the Dead was really, really cool.
So, Thornall, did you learn how to raise potatoes? Do you show them discipline and then get them like proper
Exactly.
education? And do they need to go like do like sports and stuff, or how
You
do
have
you
to-
raise potatoes?
With potatoes, you have to do an even mix of like carrot and stick. Yeah, you can't just be all stick with them. Too much
Yeah.
discipline and they go bad
Yeah,
and become sweet potatoes. Yeah.
out of dangerous. We don't want that. We don't want to get all Prussian on potatoes.
Yeah, now that we've gotten to sweet potatoes, I think that's a good moment to close the pub for the evening. Because like I said, I need to go at 10, which was 11 minutes ago, apparently.
Yeah, I need to take a shower and get something to eat,
do that. I didn't want to say anything, Britain, but I agree. You need a shower.
Both things are sort of healthy, so do take a shower and eat something, Britain.
Exactly.
I'm just gonna go.
Gotta take
Yeah,
care of
but
that
it's not
health,
healthy.
you know?
It's bad for your skin to shower too much. Have a cold
Yeah,
shower.
but
not healthy.
Britain hasn't showered for 2 hours, so I think he's good.
Yeah, he's probably all right. Cool. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Thank you, everybody on the screen. It was a pleasure to see you live for the first time, Ida. Thanks for joining us. Next pub, not that it actually matters in any way or is a big deal, but it's the 30th pub.
Ooh.
I started hiding numbers in the thumbnails, mostly just for myself. Like, how many of these have I done? And I went back and counted them at some point. So all the thumbnails for the last 3 or 4 pubs actually have a number in them. And I realized this was 29. So next week is 30.
That's good.
Yeah, which is cool. I'm really enjoying the pub. I'm glad everybody else seems to be. And
This pub is not a rock star because it didn't die at 27.
no, came close, but not quite.
Not
Nope.
quite.
Cool. See you all next week. Have a lovely week. Keep reading awesome books, as they say, and see you then.
And read fucking Navola when it comes out.
And read fucking Navola when it comes out. That's the last word.